They just don't do it like this anymore. Oh, what'd you do? Why'd you do that? He needs to take off that stupid beanie. Anyway. Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Is back talking about books. We are going to be talking about a romance book series or book duology that I just reread recently, and I think it really hit the mark on what I really like when it comes to romance and when it comes to cringe, especially in a genre like rom-com. A couple videos ago, I talked about Ali Hazelwood, right? And I talked about her books, and I love her books. With rom-coms, it's like you either love them or you hate them, and I usually love Ali Hazelwood, and I've been really negative with my reviews recently. I decided, let me talk about a book in a positive light, and I had just read these two books. I reread it as an audiobook when I was going on my trip to Arizona. I remember really loving this. It was like one of my favorite books of all time. It's actually up there. It's one of the books that's up there, okay? So that's foreshadowing. I thought maybe after being a reader and getting really into reading for years, for 4+ years, I've just lost the spark. I'm not really enjoying it as much. I'm not picking up books that are good as much, or I'm not loving the books as much because I've become really picky over time. But rereading this book as an audiobook, it hit the spot once again, okay? Because I forgot the plot, and rereading it as an audiobook, it hit the same. I understood why it was one of my favorite rom-coms back in the day, back in 2020. And that book and that series is It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I absolutely adore this series. I devoured it. I think the series as a whole for me is Tessa Bailey's magnum opus. I just don't think she's released anything that is up to par with that duology, because she ate with that. Hannah's story, the angst in there, everything that happens in there is so good, and the way that that series ends, I just felt like my soul was empty because I finished the series. Like, it was so bittersweet. I fell in love with these characters and everything they went through. I was just so happy for them in the end. Because obviously it's a rom-com, it's a happily ever after, but at the same time, I hated that the books were over, so it was a very bittersweet ending. I reread it and I realized I really do love this series. I really do love this book. I'm gonna talk about both books in depth, but I do want to say, in general, these are not perfect books. I think every single rom-com is going to be flawed. It's about how much you enjoy yourself while reading it, how much you lean into the cringe and love the cringe, because right, even K-dramas have really perfected the rom-com formula. Oh my god, it's so cringy, like I'm getting secondhand embarrassment watching a K-drama. But if it's done right, and there's a very fine line between being cringy in a good way and cringy in a bad way, I think if done right, it can be such a fun read and so memorable and so amazing and perfect. So that is how I felt about this series. I will say, people who will not like this series, the Bellinger sister series, are people who don't like super masculine male. They really lean into, I would consider it werewolf-esque type language, where it's like alpha male and I'm so feminine, that kind of language. You're not really gonna like the series. There is a lot of smut, especially in the first book. There is a lot of insta-love, especially in the first book. And in the second book, if you don't like angst, you are going to hate it, absolutely despise it. For me, I love angst. I really liked the characters in these. So that's the reason why I loved the series as a whole. If you love one book, for example, you love the first book, It Happened One Summer, but you're not getting certain things, you are going to find it in the second book. For example, the first book does not really have angst. It is all insta-love. If you want a more friends to lovers type situation and a more slower burn, long-term, super angsty, emotional book, you're gonna get it in the second book, and vice versa. Whatever the one book doesn't have, the other one does. They are like soulmates in a way. These books are like soulmates in the way that they just complement each other really well. They provide things for the other that one does not have. That's why I'm like, oh my god, this is Tessa Bailey's magnum opus. It is not perfect books. I did find flaws with it, obviously. The first book was like a 4.5 out of 5 star. The second book on my first read was a 5 out of 5 star, but then on second read, it was a little bit too angsty for me, so it ended up being like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's not perfect. I didn't think it was flawless, but no romance, no rom-com is going to be flawless. And I think it's probably one of the hardest genres to write because there is a very specific formula to the romance genre. Showing that chemistry with characters, I just feel like is really hard. I just love the way that this did it. So this is my review on Tessa Bailey's series, the Belligen Sisters series, because I've been so negative on my book reviews. This is finally gonna be a positive one, okay? If you haven't heard of It Happened One Summer, it is a romantic comedy book written by Tessa Bailey about a girl from LA named Piper Bellinger who is getting older. She's an influencer from LA and she lacks responsibility. She is a socialite. She's a party girl, okay? Think Emma Roberts in many a movie, to be honest. But she is a party girl. One day, because her party went off the rails in LA, she gets taken to jail. Her stepdad and her mom tell her, this is not okay. We are going to cut you off, or something along the lines. We are forcing you for a summer, for 3 whole months, for you to go to Westport, I think it's in Washington, live there, which is where she grew up when she was a very, very young child and where her dad died. Her mom tells her, I want you to go here, I want you to live out this small town, and I want you to take a little responsibility and show some responsibility. She moves to Westport, which is a little fishing town, meets Brendan, who is the male lead of this book. She disrupts fishing's small town life. Life has never been the same after the Bellinger sisters come into Westport. So that is my little synopsis on the book. They just don't make romances like this anymore. If you guys have suggestions for romance books, please let me know. Please let me know of recent romance books, rom-coms that I could read that do it like they did this. Because they just don't do it like this anymore. It's a by the numbers type of story, but it's just done really well. There's just so much depth to the characters. It's just so funny to me. Honestly, a lot of the scenes, I actually laughed and I died cringing at certain scenes. For example, in It Happened One Summer, there is a whole Instagram scene where Brendan, who's the main character in that book, makes an Instagram. He makes it just to follow Piper. The way the whole scene plays out is hilarious to me, and it's very millennial coded, but I really loved it, and it was like, oh, it's so real. Like, he makes an Instagram, so he has 0 followers and he's following 0 people, and then he follows Piper and he accidentally likes a post, I think, that she posted a long time ago, and all of his guy friends are like, oh, what'd you do? Why'd you do that? I don't know. It was just so funny the way it played out. It's also a very emotional book for the first book. Piper meeting her grandma, learning about her past. And I think in general, the town of Westport has so much charm to it. The town of Westport is a character on its own. I love that Brendan, that's why you will love the book if you like men like this. Men who are just so sure of themselves and so sure of the girl that he loves and that he loves her. Of course, this book is flawed in the way that it's insta-love, and there is literally, besides the fact that she's beautiful and caring and charismatic, there's no reason why he loves her. That is her soulmate. He just looked at her, was like, wow, she's beautiful. Wow, she's amazing. She has so much heart. That is the love of my life. And that's that on that. And he was so sure of her. If you love a man like that, you're going to love Brendan, even though he needs to take off that stupid beanie. Anyway, I love that Brendan gets flustered by her. I love that he basically bows down to her, treats her like a queen, and I also love the character of Piper. This book is definitely Piper's book, and this is what I was saying about how the books kind of give you what the other doesn't. So this first book is Piper's book. It is about Piper. It is about the female lead. The second book, on the other hand, is about the male lead. It is Fox's story. It is Fox's book. You see him grow, and that is how they kind of balance each other out. So this is Piper's book, and you see how she grows from the beginning, does a whole 180, and is a totally different person by the end of the book, but it also makes sense in a way. Piper's dead dad also feels like a character within itself, even though her dad is literally dead. You only see pictures of him. The way that Brendan pines for her, but it feels like he can't have her because they are from 2 different worlds, and she would never want him. Like, he feels pathetic. He feels like she's too good for him. Like, oh, I love my men like that. I just love that trope, and if you love that trope, you're going to love this book, okay? The way that he just doesn't think that he is worthy of her, I was like, and he will do anything to make her happy. I love that he also has a backstory that makes sense. His wife who passed away, he didn't really feel like he was allowed to move on, even though he didn't feel that intense love for her. He feels guilty for moving on because he feels like he has a duty to him and her father. What I love And this is a very, very specific trope that I love in books, but it is a trope that I eat up every single time. I think it provides so much stakes for me. This book has a timeline. Love a timeline in a book. I love a timeline in a book. I know it's so random, but when a romance book has a timeline, meaning, for example, in this book, Piper is supposed to be in Westport for 3 months. After the 3 months, after the summer, she is moving back to LA. So there is a very specific timeline as to when she will stay and when she will leave. I love that because it just draws you and it makes you feel even more pining. Oh my god, this is only temporary. I'm gonna miss her so much. I want her. How do I keep her here? How do I make her stay? Or vice versa, how do I make him stay? It's good. Thinking about it, I think this couple dynamic, this is really random, okay? I felt like the couple dynamic between Brendan and Piper is the clean version of Gianna and Christian from The Maddest Obsession. Hear me out. Because Piper is very flamboyant. Her style is, not gonna lie, in my opinion, ugly. Ugly and flamboyant, just like how Gianna is. And she has a very extroverted personality, whereas Brendan is grumpy, Mr. Grumpy, but he will do anything for her and is such a simp. AKA Christian, who is Mr. Grumpy, he will do anything for Gianna and is such a simp, but on top of that, he kills people. Like, This is a quote from the book. It says, once he made promises, they stuck. He's stuck. The way he is so sure of it, so sure of himself, so sure of the promises he makes, like, that is what I need, even though it's literally the bare minimum. Like, keep your promises is literally the bare minimum, but it made me swoon in this book, okay? I was swooning, I was kicking my feet in the air, I was giggling. I was reading this with my sister and we were having a good time. It was just such a good, fun time. I love that Brendan is so sure of her from the beginning, and they don't play games. They act their age, unlike Allie Hazelwood books. Even though I love a good Allie Hazelwood cringe book, those characters do not act their age. Like, they're grown 30-year-old adults and they don't act their age, okay? The characters in this book act their age, and all Brendan wants to do is make her happy. It says nothing he felt was casual, not one bit, because she wanted to keep it casual. He's like, no, this ain't casual. Whatever you want it to be, it's not casual. It is not casual. He wants to make her feel secure. I love this quote from Piper. She says, I like him for who he is, not what he does for me. There's just so many little cute moments and cute things in this book. For example, the recharging station, the way that she hugs him so that she can recharge is so cute. Like, I love it. The romance in this happens so quickly, and it is totally insta-love, but their love for some reason just makes sense. The way that they trust each other, the way that they respect each other, it does have more to do with lust, and the start of their relationship does have more to do with lust, but it is clear that the more that they grow and get to know each other, the more that they like each other. And she has heart. She has a huge heart. And you can see it throughout the book. She's a really bright spot, becomes a bright spot in the community of Westport, and everybody likes her. I think Brendan says this about Piper. He says, you have character, perseverance, and a huge heart. The third act conflict makes sense to me. It's rational. They are in two different places, and other than the distance, it's rational for her to not want to be someone who will always be away, be out at sea, putting his life in danger and feeling scared, not only for him, but for herself, like losing that and being worried all the time. You have to be strong to do that. And I think it makes sense, third act breakup, why that happened. Their reasoning makes sense to me. I love that this couple talks through their problems. That's basically the whole boat scene, I think. That's what I wrote here. I forget. He said he's okay with a high maintenance girlfriend. I love it. I love the communication in this book. He says this. I'm literally blushing. When the reward is this, is you, the work is a fucking honor. Where can I find this man? Where Amazon, like, where is he hiding? Do they have it on Amazon, Target, Costco? Where can I find this man, please? This is what I will say about the flaws of this book. Is the third act conflict for Brendan on Brendan's side out of character? Yes. It's very out of character for him to take things out on Piper and to break up. It's out of character, and for him to push her, like, honestly, he kind of annoyed me in the third act conflict because he was trying to push her to make a decision about if she was gonna stay in Westport or if she was gonna leave. I'm like, can you relax? Can you literally get off her back? It is out of character for him, and that was a big fatal flaw in the book, but I'm also glad that it happened because I think the whole time if this didn't happen, right? If she decided to stay and she stayed and she never tried to go back, or at least try to go back to her LA life and see if she was missing anything, it would have been stuck in the back of both of their heads if she was ever gonna leave. It would have been stuck in the back of both of their heads, and it would have been something kind of like a rope that's about to snap. If she didn't at least try out that life, know for a fact that the LA life is not for her, and then come back. I like the fact that she got to try it out, and that way both of them are so much more secure in the relationship at the end of the day, and she will stay in Westport and she will love it there. There's trust in the relationship. It's literally crazy that this relationship happened in 5 weeks. 5 weeks. I wrote these notes a month ago and I said, at least it's not like Ballerina Farm. How they get engaged in a month. I don't know if you remember the Ballerina Farm stuff, but yeah. I'd give the re-rating for this book a 4 out of 5 stars because we never got closure with Piper's parents. I thought that there'd be maybe a heart-to-heart with her mom. Her parents sent her to live in Westport. Daniel, who is her stepdad, there's some sort of conflict there where he doesn't really show up, is kind of absent in her life, but because he's always working, but she wants to prove herself to him that she can take care of herself and is responsible. But they kind of left that door open and they never really resolved that. I wish that they resolved that with her mom and with Piper, or Piper telling Daniel that she doesn't want his approval anymore, doesn't need his approval because he's never really shown that he's cared for her. Or even the Kirby stuff, which is Piper's best friend from LA. I wish that Piper could have cut Kirby off or told her off in some way. So those are kind of all of my thoughts on this first book. The second book to the Bellinger Sisters series follows Hannah, who is Piper's sister. It is more of a friends to lovers situation. It is very angsty. It follows Hannah and Fox, who is Brendan's best friend, okay? It follows their friendship. It follows their relationship. It's honestly a book more about Fox, who's the male lead in this, and he's also a fisherman, king crab fisherman. It's more about him and his whole backstory and his whole like, oh, what was me type thing than it is about Hannah and her growth. Hannah is in the film industry and she tells her director, hey, I know a really good location where we can film this movie. Because she missed Westport, she wanted to go back and gave Westport as a suggestion to film the movie, gave it to her director, and now she is actually roommates with Fox. So it is a roommates to lovers trope. It is a friends to lovers trope. So it's close proximity and super angsty. For Fox, he gets objectified a lot. He is just a very beautiful man. He's insecure and he thinks that he is not worth any value because of his past relationships and the way that people treat him like an object and treat him like he is just this guy who hooks up and that's it. He believes all of the things that people tell him about him. He doesn't have high aspirations and he just wants to live out his life hooking up with women and being unattached to anything. So it's definitely like reformed type of story, but there's more depth to it. There's a lot of depth to this one. So much character turmoil going on in the head. He doesn't want to have high aspirations because he's afraid that he'll be a disappointment, and that's his biggest fear. It's also a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way. He's saying he doesn't want high aspirations, so he doesn't want that responsibility, and then because he says he doesn't want it, then he still thinks that he is not worthy and he's not responsible. It's just a mental cycle. Fox thinks that Hannah's too good for him, and Hannah, in a way, is really his soulmate. I felt the soulmateness in this one because Hannah truly believes that he is capable and he is worthy of responsibility. She gives him hope. It actually scares Fox throughout the story because he's never had someone believe in him like that before, the way that Hannah believes in him. On the other side, Hannah is a girl who feels like she is unseen. She's been a side character. She's been a side character her whole life. Piper is usually the main character. It's so funny because Hannah says she's a side character and she's like the supportive one, and she is really supportive to Fox, but at the same time this is supposed to be her book and she ends up being a supportive character in her own book because this is a book about Fox mainly. Even though that's her whole thing, like she's a very supportive person. She literally moved to Westport the first time because Piper was moving there. She is a supportive character because She is the queen of psychoanalyzing Fox. It's literally so funny in the book when you read it. She is supportive of Fox and supportive of his feelings. She's supportive of Piper and her feelings. The thing I liked about this book in particular is, especially when it comes to the smut. I have read so many smutty books, and a lot of the times I hate gratuitous smut. Nowadays, I truly do. I love reading smut, okay? I'll say it with my whole chest, but I hate when the smut doesn't mean anything to the story. This could be YN plus YN. It could be YN plus insert name of any person, any random person, Bob, okay? It could be in any scene in any book, and that is the type of smut that I don't like. I like when the intimate scenes have more to do with the characters, have more to do with their journey, the way that they connect. I love when it means something to the story, and this book did it. I really, really loved the intimate scenes in here, and I love how they're so closely related to the characters and what they need from each other. At the same time, in my life right now, if I'm going to read smut, it has to move the plot forward. It just can't be in there wasting pages for what? For what? We have 300 pages in this book. Why are 200 of them those type of scenes when it's not moving the plot forward? That's really where I am in my life. There is a time and a place where I'm reading a book and I'm not reading it for the plot at all. I will read it only for the smut. That is the only time I will do that. But if I'm reading a book for the plot, which is a romance book, which is a rom-com, like I'm reading that for the plot. I want plot in my rom-com. I want characters in my rom-com. I need it to move it forward. I need the smut to move it forward. I did a review on this book actually a long time ago when I first read it. This book pulled on my heartstrings so much. Just so much angst and so much longing. Like it had that longing that I love in every single book. There's this one quote, says, "If he got friendship out of the bargain, he had no choice but to be grateful." He is just getting scraps from her. Whatever scraps that she will give him, he will take. Oh, I love that. I love that. All he cares about is what she thinks of him because she is important to him. Like, the reason why I love these books is because of how romantic it really is. I feel like romance books nowadays are just not romantic anymore. Where's the romance? Like, where's the romance? I love that these are actually romantic. Like, they just don't make it like this nowadays. They just don't, in my opinion. Unless you guys give me recommendations. He says, "You make me feel like I'm in the exact right place. Nothing to hide from, nothing to avoid." The way that this book ends, both Piper's story and both Hannah's story, all four of them as a whole, I ate it up. I bawled my eyes out reading this book, hook, line, and sinker, so much the first time while reading it. I was obsessed with it. I could not put it down. The second time, there are a lot of flaws, obviously, in hook, line, and sinker. It's a little bit too angsty for me. The entire book, the story kind of drags a little with the angst and the third act conflicts. It's a lot of back and forth, the entire book, of him thinking like, I want to be with Hannah. I don't want to be friends with her, just friends. I want to be with her, and then he gets freaked out and scared. And that happens like 3 times in the book. Well, let's get a move on, you guys. Let's get a move on. You guys are soulmates. Like, come on. And even after listening to the audiobook, this is how you know it's a good series. And this is how you know it's a good book. When you finish the book and finish the series, you go to sleep, you can't stop thinking about it. You wake up, you can't stop thinking about it. And you feel a little tug in your heart. You feel a little tug. I felt that in this. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about it for the next 2 to 3 days. And I usually go through the entire story over again in my head because I want to reminisce about it. This series did that for me. This book specifically, Fox's book and Hannah's book, did that for me. This book had a lot of its flaws, but rating it on a gut feeling, this made me feel so many things. So many things that the book was trying to make me feel. It wasn't like, okay, this book is trying to make me feel sad, but now I'm just irritated. It's not like a Colleen Hoover book like that. It's not making me irritated or furious or frustrated. It was making me feel the things that it was truly trying to make me feel. I was gutted while reading it. And because of that, because I felt so many things while reading it, I had to rate it high. First time I rated it, I was like a 5 out of 5 stars. Second time I rated it, it's truly, technically it's like 3.5 or 4 out of 5 stars, but I give it a 4.5 out of 5 because I just felt so many things and I loved the story and I loved the book. Even the second time around, Hannah could have been a stronger character. That's definitely the biggest flaw it had, especially a little bit too much angst. That's also the other flaw. Their conflict was kind of annoying. That's another flaw. They could have showed more how Fox pushed Hannah to pursue the things that she wanted to do because she's always played this supportive character, never spoke up for herself. I wish they showed more of her side of trying to grow herself as a character and ask for the things that she wanted. She's definitely a people pleaser type of person. Oh my god, she's so me-coded. What? How Fox helped Hannah become more brave, just like Hannah helped Fox. They both helped each other in so many ways. I wish that they looked at Hannah's side of the story a little bit more for that. It really truly would have put the book over the top if they did that for Hannah. So that's what I thought about these books. This was obviously very chaotic, just rambly podcast type of review or video, but all in all, in conclusion, this is Tessa Bailey's magnum opus. These two books complement each other so well. They are the epitome of what is my favorite type of rom-com, and I think this did rom-com right. There's so many flaws in rom-coms. Rom-coms are not meant to be perfect. They are meant for a specific type of feeling, specific type of people. I think this hit all the marks for me. It made me cringe when I was supposed to cringe. It made me get secondhand embarrassment when I wanted to. The dialogue was a little bit iffy at times, but that's why we love rom-coms, because it is supposed to lift our mood. It is supposed to make us feel things. It is supposed to make us happy and connect with people and with characters. It's supposed to make us feel. The reason why I love romance, I want to see human connection. I just thought that this truly showed human connection in a romantic way, in the way that people choose each other and do things for each other, but also in a way that life is embarrassing and life is funny. And this really did it for me, okay? This really did it for me. Not everyone is gonna like these books. Not everyone at all will like it, but I liked it. And I think it is okay if you didn't like it. I actually want to know if you didn't like it and what type of books you do like. If you have any suggestions for good rom-com, please let me know, because I really don't think they do it like this nowadays. Let me know if you've ever read this duology, your thoughts on it. I really enjoyed myself while reading this. Please put your comments down below about your thoughts. I love to read the comments. If you hated it, let me know. If you loved it, let me know. Oh, also, I just want to say here, I know this video is getting kind of long, but thank you so much for 4,000 subscribers. I know that's not a big number at all, but to me, that's a milestone, okay? I love the little community that we've built here together. What I'm trying to do here and trying to do on YouTube and why I make videos at all is because I'm a yapper, so I need a yap. That's number one. Secondly is because I want to create a niche space where we can discuss our loves, right? Discuss the things that we love, which is reading, or even other topics too, but have a space where people feel open to say their opinions. And that's why I want you to comment and I want you to say your true opinions about things, because I wanted to create a space where we feel open to say our opinions, even if we disagree. I think nowadays there is just so much divide on all spectrums. That's why we have certain niches. I feel like when people don't like things, we can get into a defensive way about it, and when people love things, there's always hate. For example, I really love Sarah J. Maas. Sorry, I know. But people hate her and people don't resonate with her stories. But I think that's the beauty with books, that's the beauty with reading, is that people will resonate with things differently. Really hope that I've done that for you and that you're able to say your opinions freely. Whenever I read comments, it's always so respectful, and you guys all are truly the best. Saying your opinions fully and saying it with your whole chest, but doing it in such a respectful way, even whether you like something or whether you hate something, and nothing will come from a hateful place. Like, that is truly what I was trying to do with YouTube, okay? So that's my little my little YouTuber talk. It's almost midnight. I started filming after an 8-hour shift at work. So I don't know where I got all this energy from. I think it's because I had caffeine like way late at night. But I usually never film this late at night. I just was like, okay, let me pop up with the camera. So thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Let me know your thoughts on this duology and I will catch you in the next one.